It's been a long time since I've had a conversation with our next guest, and it's going to be nice to talk to him once again. That's Dr. Howard Mortman, Sharon OBGYN. He's joining us this morning here on the Breakfast Club. Dr. Mortman, good morning, and it's nice to speak to you again.
Well, good morning. It's so excellent to speak with you, Marshall. Great memories of any chats we've had in the past, and it's always a pleasure.
So let's go over some things here. Sharon OBGYN, of course, several months ago, there was some controversy about Sharon OBGYN and the Sharon Hospital, and it's obvious that now has been cleared up.
Yeah, actually, you make a good point. Of course, the community all remembers it was really almost a couple of years ago where this organization, HealthQuest, took over the hospital. At the time, I was sitting on the medical executive committee, and basically the idea was this organization was going to come in and just expand our services, supply resources, and grow the hospital. And they promised not to close any of the services down. At the time, the foundation of the hospital, the board and the foundation, were kind of, warned by a variety of resources that isn't what was going to happen. And, then, of course, HealthQuest took over. They ultimately have become Nuvans, and they've added Danbury Hospital. It's like 5 hospitals, right? And they pretty soon after they took over, really just suddenly decided they were going to close OBGYN. And they had a variety of reasons for it that weren't necessarily valid at the time. And the community rose up. They had protests with signs, and the state stepped in and said you can't close OB at Sharon Hospital. And the good news is, I think, without question, Nuvans rose to the occasion. They got it. They understood it was a mistake. Some of the people that were running the hospital from them are no longer at the hospital. I sat with the people from Nuvans, and they said, we understand, women's services is critical. I mean, 55% of patients that come to the hospital and people at direct health care are women, and it's quite important, to have women's services, a full set of women's services at a local hospital. And, the thing is, what at the time, if they would have closed OB, what they didn't factor in was that if you close OBGYN, you then lose the ability to take care of patients that show up with an emergency if they're going to have a baby. You have an ER doctor that's going to have to deliver a baby that may have a shoulder get stuck, that may have a drop in a heart rate and need a very quick C-section. And the ER doctors actually back then threatened to leave because they didn't want to be put in that position. The community would never want to be put in that position. And besides that, we keep the hospital on their toes. We have anesthesia available 24/7 for any emergency. Somebody ruptures a major blood vessel, they come into the ER. There's no time to transfer them. You have anesthesia. You have surgical rooms available. You have, for babies and small children, you have pediatricians available 24/7. And, if they would have closed OB back then, basically it would have ended up leading to the closure of the hospital. It would have never been able to be the full-service hospital that it is. And if you don't have OB, you're going to end up, losing on a variety of levels. And what's been really great is, we've been supported by this organization, Nuvans. They've come to realize it, and now we have a unit that's always been stellar. We tend to run at the top in terms of feedback from patients and safety, since I can remember, and we've been, formally recognized. The hospital is one of, I think it's only 3 hospitals in the state that are considered 5 stars for safety, and a lot of that comes from really what we do on OB, the feedback from our patients, and it helps to get that 5 stars because our patients are universally thrilled. We just have a fantastic track record. We had the people that give board certification to all the OBs in this country. It's called the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. Basically, anybody practicing standard of care follows their guidelines. We resort to those guidelines every single day. And Nuvance had them come in to review our department, the safety of our department, the quality of our department. And sitting in at the sort of review, before they left, you can tell that ACOG was a bit blown away by some of the quality that they saw with us. Some things that we did better or that nobody else had even done, and they review huge university hospitals, and this is throughout the country. They said that they'd never seen a department that had a perfect record in terms of the documentation and the chart. We were the first one. The past year and a half has been so interesting and so unfortunate. But the silver linings, for example, are that the community is growing with New Yorkers. When a lot of people are not having babies, our department has increased our number of deliveries. I'm taking care of New Yorkers, and to be honest, I'm a New Yorker, and I find it a silver lining. And they have been sort of shocked and surprised with the quality of care they've gotten. They come scared and worried about their experience, and they end up having these amazing experiences. My nurses on maternity are the best, absolute best.
You make a good point. With you look at all the real estate agencies around here and all the houses that have been purchased, and believe you me, if you don't have a complete hospital with an OBGYN sector, people would have found other communities to go to and raise their possible families. It's just a matter of economics. I mean, you're not going to build the population base without a really stellar OBGYN outfit.
Yeah, and then, the truth is in the winter, with the icy roads, if you're pregnant and you live anywhere near this hospital, and you don't have this hospital to deliver in, it changes the whole dynamic. I wouldn't even want my kids to, coming to visit me, if they were pregnant, during the winter here, for example. And the private schools, they recruit in large part because of the reputation of the OB and the women's services. And it's so much more than just having deliveries available. It's everything. It's GYN. Not this past weekend, but the weekend before I was on call. A woman called me from home. Her husband got on the phone. She wasn't doing too well. I said, you have to get to the nearest hospital. She arrived in the hospital. Within seconds, she was taken to the OR, and she ended up needing 4 blood transfusions because she had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy in her fallopian tube. And if we didn't have anesthesia on call 24/7, if we didn't have gynecologists that had a wealth of experience, decades really in our case, just about everybody who's covering these days, that woman wouldn't survive. And I remember when we were recruiting Essent before we had Nuvance here, Essent made us a bunch of promises, and they actually kept every single one of those promises. And I remember giving a speech at Hotchkiss. We had the forum, and the state attorney general was there. And I talked about a car accident that happened right down the block from the hospital of a pregnant woman. She got up to maternity, and again, within moments, we had to bring her into the OR, save that baby's life. And I remember giving that discussion in my speech, and I think it was the only standing ovation of all the speeches I'd heard there that day, because it hits home. Every life matters, and we've had this gem of a hospital. So, but again, I think Nuvance recognized it. They came through, and the service has been running beautifully. We did lose a bunch of nurses when they suddenly decided they were going to close it, and as a result, we have incredible quality nurses, but a lot of them are travelers, and because it's hard to recruit OB nurses, and that costs tremendous amount of money when you're paying travelers instead of nurses that are full-time. So we need to recruit full-time nurses, and so the dollars they're paid to run the department is been excessive, and so that has to be fixed. But clearly, it's necessary, right? So they are making strides to improve Vassar. It's becoming a big center. They have an ObGyn residency program. Their goal would be to have us refer the majority of our patients there. It is getting better, and the services they're providing are much improved. The oncology, the people that take care of my patients with breast cancer have provided fantastic services. So it potentially has a really great symbiotic relationship developing. And what we need from them, I would say at this point, is continued support, and we need to help recruit internists to this area. That's one thing that we need. We've lost to age a bunch of our local internists, and we need that improved. So we're working on that, I hope.
We're speaking with Dr. Howard Mortman, Sharon OB-GYN. Since just the last time you and I spoke, the changes in medicine across the nation and locally have been just absolutely mind-blowing.
Well, the changes in medicine, some things never change and some things do, of course. Things are always evolving. Is there something in particular that you're referring to?
Well, I just think that your comment about the internist. You can have a hospital, you can have all the great care in the world, but you also need those internists that go along with it that are affiliated with the hospital, and it gets harder and harder, and especially coming out of a year and a half of a pandemic. But the way you're talking now, and what's I think will be have a lot of people feeling much better is that those problems are behind us, and things right now are back to normal, and actually going to get better over the course of the next year.
Well, there's no question, and I went into my bike shop the other day, and you could just feel the energy. People without masks in the bike shop, people just so happy to be able to talk to each other face to face without a mask on, to congregate in an area, to do what they've always done and taken for granted. The importance of having safety and quality in terms of health care in your local community is immeasurable. And, Sharon Hospital has always been a symbol. When I came to Sharon, having trained at Yale, and at the time being able to go wherever I wished, I found this gem in this beautiful community where the quality of life is as good as it gets. And what helps keep it that way here is the knowledge of the fantastic health care that's available at their fingertips, which it needs to be. We're rural. And that when ACOG came in to review our department, they pointed out the importance of rural ObGyn, and it's true of all the services that we provide. And thankfully, we're a full service hospital, and that's the goal. Keep it that way, right?
Well, once again, if people want to contact Sharon OB-GYN Associates, it's 860-364-0536. The Sharon office, 860-364-0536. Howie, it's been great to speak here. Like I said, it's been a long, long time since we've talked to one another, and I'm glad to hear that things are on the up and up, and that Sharon OB-GYN is going to keep providing the unparalleled service they've been providing for, probably 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, I came in '91, and I was the youngest of one of us that's still there, and but I agree. And you know what? It's just a delight to talk with you, and you sound younger than ever, Marshall.
Well, most people would say a little less mature than ever, but that's okay.
You got it. You can't let go of that. That's
right.
what keeps you going, right?
All right, Howie. Take care, and I'll speak to you later.
All right. You be well. Bye now.
Dr. Howard Mortman here on Robin Hood Radio. Sharon OBGYN Associates, 860-364-0536.